All right, well, it looks like we have enough to get started, and Lauren's going to join us shortly, so we can get started. So welcome everybody to the Finance Committee meeting on Wednesday, March 10th. In attendance currently is myself, Fred McGovern, Joe Vertrano, Cheryl, and Tom Connolly, and Drew. So on our agenda tonight, we've got our usual, which is acceptance of minutes, budgets, discussion of wage and personnel amendments, reserve fund transfers, correspondence, public participation, calendar, and as may arise. So I'd like to get the acceptance of minutes out of the way. Linda sent out the minutes, which I was just reading a few minutes ago, the 3/8 minutes from just this past Monday. So if nobody, I assume everybody's had a chance to read them. So if somebody would like to make a motion to accept the minutes from Monday, March 8th, that would be great.
I'll make that motion to accept minutes from March 8th.
Second, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, then we'll vote a roll call vote. Joe?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Tom?
Aye.
And Drew?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. So that takes care of the minutes. Discussion of wage and personnel amendments. Do we have anything new?
Not in the last 2 days, no.
Not in the last 2 days.
Okay.
I can tell you that the selectmen, when I talked with them on last night for dealing with the situation of the chiefs and the administrator and the incongruities at the top of the list, grades 12 and 14, seem to favor going with those positions as ungraded rather than graded. Take them out. There'll still be wage and personnel positions if these people don't have contracts, but it doesn't end up screwing the point system that we have in place, so that by ungrading it, the rest of them still work within each other. And then over here, along with the veterans agent and the rec director, you'll have the fire chief, police chief, and town administrator. And the reason for doing that is, A, you'll have salaries set in case people don't have contracts for whatever reason. I don't expect that to happen, but you never know. And two is, if you need, as in you being the town, have to hire someone as an interim police chief, fire chief, or interim town administrator, there'll be a set salary point. The wage and personnel bylaws says that if you hire, basically, if you hire an interim or a department head, it's 10% less than the step one for that particular position. What we'll do with those three positions is simply have one number, not any other number, no steps, just one number, as we do, for instance, for the veterans agent and rec director. And so that if you have an interim, that person would be hired or paid at a figure 10% less than that. And what I'll do is I'll bring in, before we go to press and before you make final recommendations, we'll work out what the number should be, which should, at this point, resemble the number that's in the contracts for those three individuals, so that whether they have contract or not, the appropriate amounts being paid to them.
All right, so we can swing back to that position once we get through all the budget, we swing back around to the wages section again. So, all right. Anybody else have any questions for Charlie in regards to that? All right, do we have any reserve fund transfers?
We do not.
Okay. How about any correspondences in the last 48 hours?
So the only thing that I have is the email that you all got from Charlie about the new price on the audit.
Yep, okay. And we'll get into that. All right, so let's move into the budget now. Charlie was talking about the school budget right before we came live. So there's a school committee meeting tomorrow. Charlie's going to attend that. So I didn't quite get the whole discussion, and I think so not everybody was online. So I assume that they're looking for us to push back. Is that?
Yes. I mean, Gordon, that was, I think, Gordon's position. I mean, he's been attending your meetings. He understands what the financial situation for the town and the demands that what we've got available versus the demands of what people are
Right.
asking for, whether it's Silver Lake or the elementary school or everybody else.
Yeah.
And where the finance committee's current position is, given what you voted on Monday and what you had sent out. But sending it out, Jill Prue might see it, for instance, or something like that, but not the entire Silver Lake School Committee in the interim. So he'd like, rather than him speaking to that as, let's say, a member of the Board of Selectmen, somebody else, whether it's yourself or me, to come to the meeting to say, not we're broke, but we don't
Yeah.
have the money to meet your request. You're going to have to make some serious changes in the budget for us to be able to fit your assessment within our budget. And no, we don't have a number, but we can tell you that right now, we're only doing the following things: our contractual obligations, not including a general across the board pay increase, because Silver Lake has that in their budget already for 22. They're basically going to have to trade
They did
people
take it out.
for that pay raise. And any, those contractual obligations, just like us, they have a retirement assessment, just like us, they have health insurance. But after that, and after any steps, we're level funding everything right now until we know how much money we have available and and then a list of priorities of what things we are obligated to meet or have the most importance for still funding with whatever we've got.
Mhm. I'm surprised that they haven't given us a second budget. It's sort of like standard practice. And I did mention at the last meeting that this wasn't going to work. 5.9%. I'm seeing things like they want us to subsidize the football team basically because they haven't had any,
Revenue.
revenue.
Yeah.
But it's like, why should we do that when band hasn't had any revenue, drama, they haven't had any. So why are we why is just one particular
One sport.
one
Yeah.
sport and all the
Absolutely.
everybody else? It doesn't, none of that made any sense to me as to
No.
why you're focusing so much attention on fixing up the football team and getting coach contracts and all this other stuff. I'm, if you want to talk about, academics and you need teachers, that's one thing, but to sit there and say, oh, we need all this money for sports, especially now, it just seemed like
Right.
the wrong time to be asking for that, especially when they turn around and then, give us, oh, here's $340,000 request for the tennis court, which of course, it was what, $114,000 for or something like that. It's
Mhm.
I was a little stunned to kind of see that number. What's our danger if we go ahead and vote to hold our number, the Silver Lake number as it is, and Kingston and Plimpton voted in? Now that's going to have, we would be on the hook for it, but then we then have the disparity that they're getting step raises and the town employees are not.
Well, they're going to get across the board increases in the town with it. And you're budgeting for step increases. And
Yeah, they're gonna get contractuals.
Right,
Right.
contractual is nothing extra.
Yeah, you got step increases, you got across the board wage increases. Nobody on this side of the street, or sorry, nobody in Halifax, including the teachers here, have negotiated for fiscal 22 of a general wage increase. Everybody has steps,
Yeah.
but nobody has a general wage increase. At Silver
Yeah.
Lake, they've got both. And our thing at Silver Lake would be, we're not willing at this point to fund a general wage increase, even though you have a contractual obligation to do so. You and the teachers made that decision independently of the town. And if you don't have the money to do it for everybody, then you're going to be sacrificing somebody to the altar of pay increases.
Now
Right.
we're number 2 on voting, is that right? Does Kingston vote before us?
Kingston is what I think Gordon told me, or somebody else told me in the last couple of days. Kingston's looking at the end of May to vote. They may have an official meeting date that's earlier than ours, but they won't actually be voting finances until the end of May. And then right in between, usually Plimpton is a day or two after we are. So we're on May 10th, and they'll either be the May 11th or May 12th.
Yeah.
So we'll actually be first. In the
Yeah, I
barrel.
mean, I have this nightmare scenario in my head that we sit here and see, we level fund everything, maybe the schools get a slight bump, we go into town meeting, Gordon speaks up like he typically would if we decrease the school budget. The town overrides what we're saying, and then we get hit with that Silver Lake District amount as well, which would just blow us completely out of the water.
Right, because you'll have already spent the free cash
Right.
on the capital
So,
plan. All you
so
have is
exactly so if that scenario happens, how is that handled?
stabilization is your only place to go unless you're going to cut someplace else in the budget to
Yeah.
balance it all.
Okay.
I mean, the wild card in all this is the American Recovery Act.
Yep.
In that, and we have, I'm not aware of any details. And in fact, in between talking with y'all, I'm trying to write a note to the MMA. For instance, Rhode Island, I've already got a list there of the cities and towns, and they supposedly know how much money they're getting, which sounds to me like a very different system than the CARES Act was.
Mhm.
That money's going to be sent directly. Now, we don't know what the limitations are in the sense of what can be spent on it, what the money can be used for, what it can't be used on. We don't know anything as far as I'm concerned.
So Charlie, this morning I was at a conference
yeah,
where they did discuss this, and there is money that's going to be sent directly to the towns, and then there's money that's going to be sent to the counties.
mhm,
And they're also about talking about money sent to for schools.
mhm.
So they are talking about all three different things. And they gave figures, but they gave, overall figures, 65 billion for this and 65 billion for that. So, but they did say that there was a place to go and find out what each town was supposed to be getting.
Okay,
So I can give you that information in the morning, the websites.
okay,
I might even be able to email it to you, just to give you an idea, see if you can find anything on it.
Yep.
But yeah, so they are definitely talking about a plan, but look, as they said in the conference, nothing is etched in stone yet, and things were still changing. So it will be interesting to see how it actually comes through.
mhm.
But that would be in within the next, by the time, when we go to press?
We go to press about April 8th.
So I would expect that we
We
would
should
know
know.
by then, and we can make
Hopefully.
adjustments if we have to at that point.
Because I would expect that Biden would sign that sometime this week,
This Friday.
Yeah, this Friday, yeah.
because the House
I know
passed it, so.
Went through the House today. So I think we just proceed along what our initial plan was. And then at the end of the month, we should have a better idea of, I mean, we could still go in and say, look, these numbers just don't make any sense. And again, I could sit here and tell you year after year, they've been dropping students, and the amount of money that they've been putting in per student has been going up. Now, I understand part of that is, you get declining revenue from the state. So the towns have to pick up more, but it seems to me that if you're continuing to, I mean, like we've gone to, like the elementary school, we've gone from 608 in 2018, 2019, we're down to 567, and yet the budget's like almost like $1 million more than it was like 3 years ago. I just
Yeah, it doesn't
find
make
that
any sense.
it doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
So again, my thought process is, we'll make a decision on a number, we'll present it to the town. If the town wants to override it and go into that $300,000 buffer, that's the
It's up to them.
taxpayers. Yeah, that's their call.
Yeah.
I think we do the best that we can, and that's the way we should just move forward.
The other thing about the American Recovery Act, of course, is it's unlikely we're going to see it again. So any money we're getting really should be not for the purpose, but should be treated as if it's simply another stabilization fund, another
Right.
source
On
of free
time.
cash.
Yeah.
We won't have it for operating in FY23. So we probably shouldn't use it for FY22 for operating, or at least
Yeah.
for operations that we expect to continue in FY23.
Yeah, it just boggles my mind. I mean, I get the fact that we had a higher number last year. We had COVID, we had the PPE, we had a much bigger number, you know, it's justifiable. But then you would think that you're going back to normal. Why would you see a 5.9% increase in the Silver
Yeah.
Lake District budget? That's just mind-boggling.
Mhm.
And the problem is, I asked for the numbers to see where we are trending. We're going to be increasing our enrollment from, you know, going forward. So starting next year, our percentage of costs are going to go up as it is. So, all right, so let's move into getting back to where we were the other day. We left off on line 30. So let me pull that up. So if everybody wants to go to OneDrive, pull up our nice spreadsheet and we'll get started. I haven't pulled it up yet, so.
I did update it today, so
Okay.
it's 310.
Okay. Yep, there it is, the 310 version.
Yep.
Updated 2 hours ago.
Yeah,
All right, so we left off at we finished line 30. And we're on the expense sheet, line 30, which was the elect register. So we would skip 31, right? That's clerical. Expense, that's okay to vote, right?
right. Now, I just put a note on that. That's wage and personnel. We don't have a wage and personnel board anymore,
Yeah,
but that figure is usually, it's used for like the dues and things like that. The selectmen were going to absorb it into their budget, but we level funded their budget. So I put it back in wage and personnel because I didn't think they'd be able to absorb it without the extra money they had in. So,
okay.
First,
All right.
we'll work out who's authorized to pay a wage personnel board bill, which doesn't exist.
Yeah. All right, so if somebody would like to make a recommendation on line 32, wage and personnel expense for the amount of $250.
So
Moved.
moved. Second.
Second.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote then. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew.
Yes.
Okay, myself is yes. Okay. Number 33, recruitment and employee costs. That's line 33, recruitment and employee costs in the amount of $7,500. Would somebody like to make a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. So then we go down to Conservation Commission expense. Okay, so line 34, Conservation Commission expense. Would somebody make a motion to fund that in the amount of $800?
Yes.
So
Make that motion.
moved.
Second.
Okay, so roll call, Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. Okay, line
excuse
30.
me, Fred,
Yes, yes.
just because you have to do the roll call votes, it might be helpful to group them.
Yeah, I
Like-
was thinking that because we had done that in the past, but since we're doing the roll call, I wasn't sure if we could do that.
Yes.
Okay,
You could say, move to approve line 45, 46, 47 with the amounts that you give.
Okay, so-
Make
All right,
it
so-
easier.
yeah, all right. So 35 is an expense, 36 is an expense, 37, I assume that can be voted on? I'm just saying.
37, no, hold that
That's a
one.
wage.
Okay, so let's do 35 and 36 out of the way first. So like to make a motion, I'd like somebody to make a motion to fund line 35 planning board expense in the amount of $2,000, and line 36 zoning board of appeals expense in the amount of $825.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. So skip 37. So can we go all
And
the way
skip
down?
38.
Okay, skip 38.
You can do 39, skip 40, do 41, 42, 43 altogether.
Okay, so 39, 41, 42, and 43. Okay. All right, let somebody make a motion to approve lines 39, building committee expense in the amount of $450. Line 41, town building expense in the amount of $35,610. Line 42, town building preventative maintenance in the amount of $52,616, and line 43, town building snow and ice expense in the amount of $2,000.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Joe,
Aye.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Tom,
Aye.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is an aye.
Real quick, Fred, Sandy, I don't know if you noticed it or not, and maybe you've already updated it, but the file I have open in the blue is not the 610, it says 360.
Good catch, Joe.
So it's
Mhm.
picking up the 2021 budget, not the
On
20.
town building.
Oh,
expense.
you're right.
Okay, so we'll go back and do 41 again.
Yep.
Would somebody, I'd like somebody to make a motion to approve line 41, town buildings expense in the amount of $35,360.
So moved.
And
Okay, roll call
Second.
vote on that. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yeah.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is yes. Okay, let's see if I can,
Okay, salary, we can't, make this we can.
try to make my screen a little better so I can catch things like that in the future. All right, so that takes care of town government, town general government for now. Okay, so we're in public safety police. I assume we have to skip 44 and 45.
Mhm.
Is the
Yeah.
rest 46, 47, 48, 49, 50?
You can do 46, 48, 49, and 50. Skip
Okay.
47, that's clerical.
Okay, so 46, I'd like somebody to make a motion to approve lines 46, police training in the amount of $10,000. Lines 48, police expense in the amount of $70,000. Line 49, police station maintenance in the amount of $20,000, and line 50, police cruiser maintenance in the amount of $13,000.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is yes. Okay, that takes care of police. Fire would be skip 51, 52, and 53.
53.
So is it
And
54?
skip 54, just because they have a lot of wages in their training.
Okay. So 55 through 59 then?
Yep.
That's not, okay. I'd like somebody to make a motion to approve lines 55 fire expense in the amount of $46,750. Lines 56, fire station maintenance in the amount of $17,000. Lines 57, fire vehicle equipment maintenance in the amount of $33,500. Line 58, fire medical supplies in the amount of $26,000. And line 59, ambulance billing in the amount of $27,500.
So moved.
Second,
All right, roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. All right, let's go down to our public safety section. So I assume we skip
61 and 62.
61 and 62. Are definitely
61
up.
and 62.
Right,
Yeah,
Can we do
61, 62, 64,
4,
66, you have to skip, so.
wow, 61.
Yeah.
62, 64, 66, okay. All right, so I'd like somebody to make
Yeah.
a motion on line 60, emergency management, in the line, in the amount of $4,550. 63, building inspector expense in the amount of $4,750. 65, seals, weights, measure expense in the amount of $527. In line 67, animal control officer expense in the amount of $4,616.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
yes.
and myself as an I. Okay. Now we come down to our schools.
Don't forget dispatch
Dispatch.
We can do
service.
dispatch. Yeah.
We're doing, did I miss dispatch?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah,
69.
line 60. All right, I'd like somebody to make a motion to approve line 69 dispatch services in the amount of $163,000.
So moved.
Second,
All right, roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. Okay, now we are in the school section. And the,
So I think it would be smart to skip, Charlie, correct me if you think it's different, but skip all of it, because I believe they may be coming back with different numbers, like for the vocational education. And we're hoping they come back with
I would,
different numbers
yeah.
for their budgets.
okay,
I would leave all the school numbers alone for this point, including the ones you just mentioned. Yeah, I mean, because the voc ed number, can fluctuate even right now
Mhm.
as the school system learns whether kids get accepted or not accepted to the various voc ed schools.
so they vote on the
Yeah,
budget on the 15th,
debt-
right?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll have to
Okay.
find out. The debt, the Silver Lake debt, that's a given.
Yeah.
That's not going to change at all. That I would vote that number certainly.
Okay. All right, well then let's get that one out of the way. Would somebody make a motion to approve line 76? Debt exclusion budget, Silver Lake, in the amount of $450,993.
So moved.
So, second,
All right, roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
myself is yes. Okay, that brings us down to the Public Works Highway. I did want to ask you a question. On the highway town roads, is that money that is like the same amount? Is that similar to what we do as an article where like we
Yeah, it is, but it's for smaller projects, Sandy, I think.
Yes, yeah. The town roads, this is like, they buy the stuff to fill the potholes, things like that. The road maintenance article is for larger projects.
okay. I wasn't sure if you could shift money from here over there, like we decrease this, since it's a different funding source.
Yeah. They use this more for like the small jobs and stuff like that. They don't use the road maintenance money for those, so.
Okay. So we would skip 77 and 78
And 79.
and 79, and then 80 all the way down is fine, right? Well, except for the 87. Well, or we could do the salary, that's $1.
Yeah, it's
always-
a dollar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You can
Right,
go
but-
right through.
so 80 through 89 then we'll do. All right, so I'd like somebody to make a motion to approve line 80 highway expense in the amount of $6,771. Line 81 highway barn maintenance in the amount of $11,610. Line 82 highway equipment in the amount of $52,500. Line 83 highway towns in the amount of $58,705.
Call it 83A.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. 83A highway stormwater management in the amount of $144,400. Line 84, highway snow and ice in the amount of $177,509. Line 85, streetlights in the amount of $32,500. Line 86, traffic lights in the amount of $5,500. Line 87, tree warden salary in the amount of $1. Line 88, tree maintenance in the amount of $3,500. And line 89, insect and pest control in the amount of $1.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
yes,
and myself is a yes. That takes care of the highway section. Moving down to cemetery. I assume it's just 92, right?
Yeah.
All right, so,
Um, Yep, just
okay.
92.
all right, so I'd like somebody to make a motion to approve line 92, cemetery and supplies equipment in the amount of $6,195.
So moved,
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
yes,
and myself is a yes. Okay. Moving on to Public Works Water. We would skip 93, we'd skip 94.
Skip 95.
Skip that.
Skip 95, yeah, go 96
Sorry.
through 103.
Okay. All right, let's take care of that one then. I'd like somebody to make a motion to approve lines 96, water supply in the amount of $182,600. Lines 97, water insurance in the amount of $50,000. Lines 98, water retirement in the amount of $19,000. Line 99, water legal fees in the amount of $1,500. Lines 100, water meters in the amount of $25,000. Line 101, water, gas and oil in the amount of $11,000. Lines 102, water vehicle equipment maintenance in the amount of $9,000. Lines 103, water town wells maintenance in the amount of $100,000.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, then let's do a roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
yes,
and myself is a yes. Okay, solid waste management. Sandy, we didn't add anything yet, right? Like all the
No.
stuff. All right, so all the stuff that you talked about at town meeting is not in here at the moment.
Right,
Okay, so we skip 104 and we'd skip 106, right?
right.
All right, so let's go through this. I'd like somebody to make a motion for lines 105, recycling office expense in the amount of $3,501. Lines 107, recycling center expense in the amount of $45,000. Lines 108, hazardous waste collection in the amount of $14,550. Lines 109, trash collection disposal in the amount of $235,919.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
Fred,
Yes.
we're not, for the most part, you're not going into the weeds about the funding for each of these line items. So when we get to town meeting, Sandy officially puts in, notes over on the side that say if something is being funded other than raise and appropriate. Generally, the recycling money comes from the recycling fund, either from revenues or from the fund balance. The recycling committee met with the selectmen 2 weeks ago to talk about some issues of having the general fund, the raise and appropriate, fund some of the recycling costs, for various reasons. I just want to give a heads up to the committee that that's the intent. I'm not disputing the amounts at this point, just that what we may end up doing or how we fund those line items may change a little bit from what we've done before. we're gonna get an official vote from the selectmen. I'm hoping in a couple of weeks, asking that, recommending that some of the funds come from raise and appropriate, particularly for the hazardous waste day, some collection of things like needles and such down at the recycling center, and also the town's own dumpsters. So for instance, the town hall dumpster isn't going to be paid for by the bag and tag or the recycling fees. It's just going to be paid by the property taxes because all 3,000 households share the cost of running the municipal buildings, whether it's a school or the town hall, or the police station, for instance, including trash. I think we're still trying to work out, the committee is and the selectmen, whether we need to make further adjustments based on how we handle the abatement process and things like that. But sorry to go into detail here, but I did want people to realize who might not have been at the selectmen's meeting that there's a direction that we're going in. We're going to still run the recycling program, still do bag and tag, but it may not be, the funding for the programs may not be 100% from those sources of revenue. They may be raising appropriate money.
You would still have the same line numbers. You're not adding,
Right.
splitting. You're not gonna do like 104A and 104B, 104A, 104B, that sort of stuff. It's the same line number stuff. So, so at the moment, as I said, we just level funded. So we'll do that vote right now. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
yes,
and myself is yes. Yeah, so I was at the meeting, so I'm pretty well aware of it. And again, when we come back and do like the contractual and stuff like that, we can see what we have left and say, okay, can that fit in? Each, everybody's going to have like some idea of where they think the money should go. And that's where the discussions, this is the easy part, sitting there just saying, we'll level fund everything. The
Yeah,
hard part's going to be like, oh, we have $147,000. Where's it going to go?
right.
That's where the discussions are. That's where it's going to get difficult. All right, so moving on to health and human services.
Okay, you have to skip 110,
Yep.
skip 112, skip 115, 116,
Okay, hold on.
119,
Let me write these
and
down.
that's it.
All right, so we're going to skip 110, right?
Yep, 110, 112,
112, 115,
right?
and what
116
else? 116
and 119.
and 119. All right, so we're going to skip those. All right. So I'd like somebody to make a motion to approve line 111 health expense in the amount of $7,873. Line 113 health nursing service in the amount of $7,000. Line 114 landfill engineering and monitoring in the amount of $15,217. Line 117 council on aging expense in the amount of $8,800. Lines 118 Pope Tavern electricity in the amount of $3,000. Lines 120 veterans agent expense in the amount of $1,350. Lines 122 veterans benefits in the amount of $205,225. Lines 123 housing authority in the amount of $1. And lines 124 ADA expense in the amount of $1.
So moved.
Second.
All right, let's do a roll call vote here. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
yes,
and myself is a yes. All right, let's move down to culture and recreation. So we would skip 125, 126, 128,
30.
130, 131.
Mhm.
Is that it?
Sorry, I was distracted. All right, so you're skipping 125, 126,
128,
128,
130.
130,
and
131. Yep,
131.
that's it.
Okay, all right. So, and again, we'll probably, I'm sure we'll circle back to libraries, but at the moment, we're just voting to level fund it. So I'd like somebody to approve lines.
Actually,
Yes,
excuse me, Fred, I didn't change the figures on the library
you didn't?
because it comes out, because I considered that one of those contractual.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if we were doing,
Yeah.
I knew we were gonna come right back to this.
Right.
But since that was part two, I didn't know if you had,
Yeah, no, I hadn't changed those. Those are the same as what she asked for.
okay, well, so I don't have a problem since this is contractual and literally this was gonna be the very next thing that we were going to do. Does anybody have a problem leaving these amounts, which are higher? I mean, it goes against the original plan, but again, we were gonna circle back to this right after we finish the votes anyways.
Right, so the director's salary and the wages, they're
Yep.
both steps. There's nothing extra built in there, just the steps. And the library expense line is actually less than the year before.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So one,
so I don't understand, sorry if I could ask a question. If I don't understand, the aggregate library bill is down by $6, library budget?
It shouldn't be
That's correct.
down.
yeah, that's what it's some like, well, I gotta download this. Uh, 595, 430, it sums up right.
Where
I'm on if you guys have a question.
Yeah,
I'm just
It
looking for
actually, it's actually up by $4,000, Tom. So FY '21 added up to 332,000. FY '22 adds up to 336,000. So it's a difference of $4,000, but
Yeah.
it's what we need to stay certified.
right.
Sorry, I was looking at the entire culture and recreation line, which is
Oh, all right.
$6 off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so so getting back then, is 125 and 126 and 127 okay or not okay? I just don't, what are we gonna vote on?
Can I just say the last meeting that Melissa was at, she didn't touch the salary or the wage line item, but the group as a whole voted, the finance committee did vote my expense budget because it's less than what I asked for
Correct,
last
yeah.
time.
Yeah, so we don't have to do 127 because we already did it. So Sandy, can we do 125 and 126?
I see no reason why you couldn't. I mean,
Alright.
it's just steps, but
Or do you want to wait since this is a wage thing? I don't know if we want to just start getting out of order here.
Yeah,
All right.
all the wages at once.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So then
All
go
right, so-
ahead with 127.
Which we already
129.
voted on.
Oh, you already voted on all
Yeah,
those?
we
All
did
right.
that at a previous meeting.
Oh,
mean,
you did?
yeah.
All right.
Because that was lower, so we had already taken care of that.
Right.
Okay.
So we would need to do lines 129. I'll knock that one off right now. Line 129, youth and rec expenses in the amount of 13,216.
So moved.
Okay,
Are
do I
you
have a
doing
sec-
all of them?
No, I'm
Fred?
just gonna get that one because I got to figure out where I am. I know I got to
Sorry,
do
so
that one.
moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Joe,
Yes,
Carol,
yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
yes,
myself is a yes. All right, so we still skip 130 and we skip 131.
Right.
So 132 all the way down should be fine, right?
Yep.
All righty. Just move these amounts over. Okay, I'd like somebody to make a motion to approve Lines 132 park expense in the amount of $450. Line 133 cable television in the amount of $198,000. Lines 134 patriotic celebrations in the amount of $300. Lines 135 historical commission in the amount of $3,500. Lines 136 historical district commission in the amount of $446. Lines 137 holidays in Halifax in the amount of $3,395. So the 138 is zero, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
And
lines
I
130
did talk to them. They are not asking for any money in FY '22.
Okay, so line 138 Halifax Fireworks Committee in the amount of $0. Lines 139 Beautification Committee expense in the amount of $500. Lines 140 Agricultural Commission, also $0. Lines 141 Website Committee expense. We still have that expense?
Well, it's what, it really shouldn't say website committee, it should simply say website.
Okay,
I mean, we have about something like $3,000 for the annual license and maintenance.
okay. Yeah, it threw me off because it was like website committee. I'm like, that's gone. Yeah. All right. So getting back, lines 141 website committee expense in the amount of $3,050, and lines 142 music rights in the amount of $366.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
yes.
myself is a yes.
At some point, maybe somebody can explain later why we spend $250,000 on a YouTube channel.
I can tell you,
Yeah,
ahead.
that's, yeah.
well,
Did.
okay,
Isn't that the
so
money that comes from, that comes back?
do you want me to, so what you do have is channel 15, which
Yeah.
is not just the YouTube. So Area 58 is the public access nonprofit that handles Carver, Halifax, and Plimpton. Used to be that Comcast did that. You know, we didn't have it, there was they handled everything in-house. And they basically said, that's not our business anymore. We're not going to do that anymore. So we needed to have public access of some sort for coverage of meetings and other events in the communities. And I don't know if people still do public access shows. If you remember decades ago, people went on with, who knows, you know, you'd have talk shows, puppet shows, you name it,
Yeah.
people would be doing things on there. So what it is now is that there's a surcharge on the Comcast bill that we get in, and then it just the same amount is sent out. So if we get, let's say $40,000 this week from Comcast, we get a check every quarter. That money then goes straight to Area 58. There's basically, you know, there's a turnover, and then we cut a check and it's sent down there. And with that money, they run the studios down there. They have the people come in to, well, obviously we're not covering the finance committee meeting right now, but they'll take this Zoom meeting and broadcast that on channel 15. And when we get back to normal in-person meetings, for the most part, you know, you'll see a camera person running it and everything like that. So that's where the money goes. So it's not taxpayer money, it's cable franchise, not franchise fee, but people who are paying the Comcast, that it goes to them. It's not taxpayer money.
Thank you.
All right, we're now into the debt service, and since we have a lot of new people, I don't want them voting on all this stuff without a better understanding, like what WPAT 2 is and that sort of stuff. So maybe Sandy or Charlie, just give us a better
So the
understanding.
WPAT is water pollution abatement something. Trust, that's what it is. And what happened is years ago now, we borrowed money from the state. It's a state program to it's a betterment to allow people to borrow money from us to fix their septic systems at at the time, it was at the very low interest rate of 5%, which now is high, but they would be able to, people who couldn't afford to fix their septic systems on their own, in order for us to keep our groundwater clean and protect our ponds, they would be able to borrow money and then pay a betterment and pay it back over 20 years. So we had to pay back the money to the state, but we also had the same 20 years to pay that money back, and we've been paying it back. So the WPAT, you see there's nothing being asked for this year because that has been paid back. We paid that back. The last payment is being made this year. The WPAT2 is the second phase of it, and we have another few years to pay on that, and that will be paid back. But we're basically getting the money back in from the people who have taken out the loans and the betterment, and then we're using that money to pay back the state. And we get interest, and we get to keep the interest.
And
So
that's
that's
strictly
what
for,
that is.
so that's strictly for like septic tanks. That's not to like,
That's right.
not to replace their water pipes because they're rusty or
No,
stuff like
septic,
that.
septic betterment only.
Okay.
Yep.
Landfill capping.
So the landfill capping, several years ago, we had a landfill down by the highway barn. And it was never properly capped when it was closed. So several years ago, we did that. We borrowed money in order to cap that. And so that we were in line with the DEP regulations. So that's that one. And again, I think that loan is paid off in 2026.
Good news coming then.
Yeah.
Then the two newer ones, which I'm well aware of, the HES roof and repairs and the HES fire suppression system.
Right.
So
And those we have quite a ways to go.
yeah,
on.
well, yeah, those are practically brand new.
Was
All
that-
right, so
Your
you're gonna
term?
have lines 148, 149. I assume it's 149A, 149B. So
Yeah.
let's,
I had never remembered those.
that's all right. All right, so I'd like somebody to approve lines 148 debt WPA2 second in the amount of $10,000. Lines 149 debt landfill capping in the amount of $95,569.
Actually, that one.
149A, which is debt Halifax Elementary School roof and repairs in the amount of $317,850. Lines 149C, B, sorry, 149B, debt HES fire suppression system in the amount of $214,189. And then line 150, interest on temporary loans of $5,000.
So moved.
Second.
Hey, roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Drew,
yes,
and myself is a yes. This brings us down to fixed costs. And right off the bat, we have the Plymouth County retirement. So what numbers are we looking at? They're probably going to change.
Not that one, that's set.
That's set. Okay.
Yeah, that's,
And the group insurance is definitely down because you have a low
yes.
number.
So I plugged in the new number that was supplied by Linda this afternoon
Okay.
of $1,079,027.
Okay, great. All right. So,
Linda, however, is demanding a cut of the,
I see.
Are you sharing that with us, Linda?
Yeah, if it only worked that way, I mean,
Right. I'd be taking early retirement if I could have get it back all these years.
yeah, I mean, for my company, I've written stuff that saved them millions and millions of dollars, but I don't get to see an extra dime in my paycheck, but
Yep.
that's the way it works. All right, so let's go through this. I'd like somebody to approve Lines 151 Plymouth County Retirement in the amount of $1,462,365. Lines 152 Group Insurance Town Share in the amount of $1,079,027. Lines 153 Medicare Town Share in the amount of $134,722. Lines 154 Insurance in the, or did I just do that one?
Nope.
No, you didn't.
Nope, you're on.
Okay.
You're on the right place.
All right, lines 154 Insurance in the amount of $315,741. Lines 155 OPEB Trust in the amount of $38,000. Lines 156 Telephone in the amount of $40,000. Lines 157 Gas and Oil, all departments in the amount of $90,000. Lines 158 Heating Oil, all buildings in the amount of $50,000.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, a roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Tom,
yes.
Drew,
yes.
and myself is yes.
Sandy, can I ask just a really quick question? It might be a stupid one. For the line 155, that 38,000 is different than any of the numbers I see. Is
Right.
there, with no
So-
note?
We have a policy for the OPEB. OPEB trust is something that we have to, we've been funding the OPEB trust because the town is liable for, we have a liability on our financial statement for the cost of retirement for our retirees.
Right.
And it's, I don't even know how to explain it,
Well,
but
for the
it's
it's the health insurance as opposed to
right.
the pension.
Other post-employment benefits.
Yep.
And we have this liability, it's huge. It's probably 17 million at this point. We made a policy that each year we would try to increase the amount going into that by $5,000. So that's the first figure you saw for FY22 was the 42.
Mhm.
But we said if we could not do the 5,000 each year, we would go at least 1,000 up.
Got it.
So it was a town policy that was made, and it's, probably each year we'll only go 1,000, but we try to do the 5,000 if we can.
Got it.
Yeah, it's been going on for a couple of years, Joe. So that's another one I should have probably had us voted on, but I completely forgot about
No,
that.
no worries.
Okay, so that gets through our first pass of everything. Do we want to handle contractual now, or do you want to jump over? Are we ready to start looking at articles at all, Charlie?
Sorry, I hate to break the quorum, but as I said the other night, I got a hard stop. I got to teach a class at 7.
Okay,
Luck.
that's fine.
Sorry about that.
That's it. We still have 4. so
Thank you,
that's fine.
Tom.
Okay.
All right,
great.
thanks,
Thank
Tom.
you. Good night.
Tom.
Okay, so capital planning met for the second time Tuesday. We're meeting with the rest of the department heads who have articles in the following next Tuesday. And hopefully we'll have recommendations for you that maybe by next Wednesday, if we can have a nice long meeting and make all our decisions on what we're going to recommend. I'd like to get the articles recommendations into you as soon as possible so that you have time to at least look at them and read through them and make your own decisions on your recommendations. But that won't be ready at least until next Wednesday at the earliest. It might have to go the following Monday, but we are working on trying to get that to you as quickly as possible.
Okay.
So and one thing I did want to point out, so you guys are looking at your spreadsheets, and on the revenue page, Charlie and I, when we were chatting, when we first came on the meeting, Charlie told me to increase the estimated new growth to 100,000. So I did do that, and just ignore that year. I haven't updated the year. I'll have to do that.
Yeah.
So I increased the estimated new growth to 100,000 on the revenue page. On the page 1 synopsis, if you look at that now, what I'm showing now is we have about $280,000 in the black. So that will help us a little bit when the schools come back to us.
Yep,
It's still not a lot of money and it's not going to go a long way,
yep,
but it will help us some.
okay.
right.
So what are some of our contractual obligations? Obviously, step increases.
Well, then that's it. So on our side, so Silver Lake being over there, we're for negotiations for fiscal 22. I mean, a couple of contracts, we're still negotiating fiscal 21, let alone 22. Which won't be a whole different situation for the special. But for 22, we have I think one union's made a proposal for 4%, which, no, not happening. We haven't done 4% while I've been here.
Yeah,
So there's been very little going back and forth. So, and that includes the schools, the elementary school. Gordon has said, they're negotiating. If we went into executive session, I would say more about that situation, but I know that they've not settled with the school over there for the fiscal 22 wage increase. We've not settled with anybody for a wage increase for any of the unions for fiscal 22. Step increases. Sorry, go ahead.
When they do negotiations, we do them a year at a time. They don't do 3 years, the unions. I worked for a union for 30 years and that's how we did it. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, well, this is Halifax. I'm not trying to be funny about it. It is a weird situation. So what happened was that during the Great Recession, we were in a financial precarious situation. And that's when we said to the unions, we can't guarantee that we're going to have the money the following, year 2, year 3 of the contract. So we have done now, I know it's 3 cycles, if not, we may be in our 4th by now, if not a 5th, that we will negotiate everything for 3 years except wages. Well, as part of the negotiations, we'll get the wages set for year 1. And then we'll have a reopener for year 2 and year 3, but only for wages, nothing else. And we've been doing that with everybody. Now, the school, I think it's the first time for the elementary school they've done this. But police, fire, highway, it's all been wages 1 year at a time. I think it's benefited, at least on our side, because if we do have a bad year, like we are right now, a number of my counterparts are saying, have said they're going to be using stabilization free cash to balance the books, which is a no-no. I mean, they know it's a no-no. We know it's a no-no, but they're trying to make ends meet. So we're not in that same predicament that we've made a promise that wages are going to go up 2% or 2.5% or 1.5% for 22. So we're not bound.
Okay.
I have not gone back to any of the unions yet to say that, what our financial situation is. And again, we're not in an executive session, so I can't communicate the message that the selectmen might say, Charlie, please tell the unions this as terms of any wage offer. But all the finances and everything we've talked about are a matter of public record.
Okay.
So
I was just curious.
So we do have, the contractual obligation is our next thing, which will be the wages. Do we want to call it a night and, move on to let's see if there's any public participation, and we can always book an executive session to go more into detail on some of this stuff for next Monday.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a good idea for everybody?
Yeah, it sounds fine to me.
Okay. All right. So what we'll do then is, anybody? So again, we'll move on to public participation. Does anybody have anything from the public? It doesn't look, I see a resident on, so I wasn't sure if they had any questions.
I think I know who that is, but
okay.
No,
So,
it's all good. Don't worry. It's a,
oh, okay. It's like we're being audited or something like that. So in that case, what we'll do is we'll again, looking at our calendars, we have meetings scheduled for next Monday night and next Wednesday night. Next Monday night, I'd like to get through the wage section. So Linda, if you could put on the fact that we're going to be going into an executive session to talk a little bit more details about some of these contracts, so that at least that's on the schedule. If Sandy, if you can't get to, I think we'll probably be wrapped up with that Monday, right? I would hope.
Wrapped up with what?
Like wages. I like
The
to.
wages, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, right now, the amounts that are in are step increases.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we probably should be able to do that, do the
Yeah,
wages all on Monday.
and then maybe we'll have some better idea on the school. So we'll definitely meet next Monday. I'd like to get into the next big chunk, of course, obviously, is the articles. So that I'll leave that one up to you, Sandy. If you don't think you can get them done by next Wednesday, and we'll discuss this next Monday, but if we don't think we're gonna get to them, we can just cancel next Wednesday's meeting if
Right.
we have nothing to talk
What
about.
I'll try to do, Charlie's been working on a draft of the warrant.
Yeah.
So I have to review it again. And then once Charlie and I are pretty happy with it, we will send it on to you, and hopefully we'll be able to get it to you before Monday, right, Charlie?
absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
And
Does
that way you
anybody
can
have
at least
anything else?
read through the articles.
Yeah.
So,
That'd be good. Yeah, I'd like to see.
all right.
Yeah, are there any zoning articles or anything?
There'll be one on update of the floodplain bylaw, or the floodplain section of the bylaw. I was looking at 5G cell towers, the new small ones that would go on telephone poles, and talked to land use council, and they feel right now we're not going to need something immediately. The other topic that came out was outdoor dining, but we've got provisions in there right now. The emergency orders allow the cities and towns to bypass the normal zoning procedures for outdoor
Right.
dining. But
Yep.
at some point, those orders are going to disappear. And then the question is, are these restaurants going to want to then continue to do outdoor dining past the pandemic? And if so, what do they need? Some communities never had a provision for outdoor dining. We do actually. It's a very general sort of open air business and sales, but they'll, so there's a way for them to do that. And again, therefore, they don't need to make a change. They need to do the applications and such. So I think floodplain is it. We didn't get any,
Yeah.
at least on zoning, we didn't get any petition articles.
So is the floodplain basically what was pulled, like, was it
Yes.
a year ago?
Yeah, we have a few more updates from FEMA. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So does anybody have anything else that they want to cover tonight? If not, I'd like somebody to make a motion that we adjourn our meeting at 7:12 PM.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is yes. All right, everybody, you have a great evening. Talk to
You
you next
too.
Monday.
Okay.
Next week.
See ya.